just going to give a brief testimony just to give you guys a background. I realize that there is new people here, so you guys can understand my background and, where I came from and how I came to the church and whatnot. But I also realize that a lot of people in here don't even understand my testimony because some people come at later times and whatnot, right? So, for those of you that don't know, I'm the assistant pastor Christian. I've been here since, about December 2015. Yeah. It's been a while, almost 8 years. And I'm not going to give you my whole life story, but I'll give you the gist of why I'm here. And so, growing up, I wanted to play in the NFL. That was my thing. Football was my thing. I trained a lot. I walked onto a college practice, not knowing anybody. I made the team. But every time I would start to get good, whether in high school or college or anything, I'd always get hurt. And I don't understand why. My back, broke my collarbone, all these kind of things. And so when I finished my 2 years of junior college in Fresno, I moved to Sacramento to go finish my last 2 years at Sac State. And during that time, I was thinking, because I never had a backup plan, I was just like, I'm going to play in the NFL, and that's it. I'm not going to work a corporate job because my mom worked in corporate sales her whole life. And she was always, while she did well, very well, she was a single mom, and she was always really stressed out, very stressed out, a lot of tears. And I was always say to her or my friends, I'm never going to work corporate. There's no way, right? And not that anything's bad with corporate, but for me personally, it was like my arch enemy. I was not about to go there. And so as I graduate college from Sac State, this is in 2015, I would go out a lot. I think the reverb's on. I would go out a lot. I would hang out with a lot of girls. That was my life, But anytime you get what you want, in that sense, you're happy, right? But the weeks between that where nothing happens, you're empty. And so you're constantly questioning yourself even before. And I had always known of God, and I believe in God. I went to a Christian school when I was in junior high. And I always knew that there's got to be something more, because I would always feel empty, and I'm like, there's got to be something more. And I would have these dreams when I was a very little kid about, like, dying and going to heaven, and I would, but I didn't understand at that time, like, how vast heaven really was, so I was just, like, floating in space, basically, and I would, like, look around, and I would, like, gosh, this is so boring, there's nothing here. And so I would cry to my mom. I'd be like, I don't want to die because I don't want to, it seems like boring after. So naive, but I always knew that there's something. And then when I finished college, and I was always hurt, so I got cut. And that reality check started to come in. It's like, well, I got to be a man, I got to go get a job. And so my mom, having all the connections in the corporate world, I go get a corporate job, right? And it was really tough for me. And my dad had moved out here around that, a little bit before that, to the Bay Area from Fresno. So he's like telling me, hey, you should keep in mind, I knew about this ministry when I was in Fresno. And my dad started to implement Sundays back in like 2012, something like that. And I wanted to go to the lake and hang out with all these girls, so I said no, I don't want to partake in that. And so they kicked me out, and I moved into an apartment, as they should have kicked me out. And I lived on my own, and then once I graduated 2 years, and I moved to Sac State, finished there, got the corporate job, and that corporate job had an office here in San Mateo. And I was so miserable when I first started there because it was like everything hitting me at once. Like, wow, everything I said I would never do. And like, it's like what they say, I'll never be like my dad. And then you end up turning out like your dad, right? Not you, but just, My dad's over there, Elder Daniel, for those of you that don't know. And my stepmom, Elder Ellen. And so I ended up turning into what I didn't want to. So it was just this internal battle. And my dad's like, hey, why don't you, talk to pastors? And at the time, I knew of them, but I never spoke with them. And he was just telling me, like, hey, maybe you should, and that urge in me just wanted to move to the Bay Area. God created that. It wasn't for church at first, but I wanted to just move to the Bay Area because I wanted my friends. All my friends are here because I moved to Sacramento when I was in high school, right when I graduated junior high. And so all my friends were there, and high school was a terrible experience for me. I did not like high school. And so I wanted to move back to my friends, and that kind of, after I talked to Pastor Steve, then there was even more motivation, like, hey, you should come and check out our church. Even if you don't move here, just come with your parents on a Sunday or something when you come and visit here. And so I ended up moving here, and I worked at the San Mateo office. This was like September 2015, and then it was really difficult, and I was really miserable, and I would always think like, oh, there's got to be something more to this. I can't just do this for the rest of my life, And so I came to church one of the Sundays, and I remember meeting Pastor Steve and Pastor Eugene, and they like prayed over me, and they said a few things. I can't remember a lot, but they said there's going to be financial blessing and heavenly blessings, and then like my feet were like really hot, and they said that like that would be like traveling or something. It's a little foggy for me, but I remember after I moved in with my dad, Elder Daniel, and I started coming to the church, and there was just something about the place over there on Osgood near the old other Walmart. And it was like, I remember there was just something about the place that was like touching my inside. And it was kind of like, I started thinking about when I was young, like, oh, there's got to be something more. And this really piqued my curiosity because I was like, dang, maybe this is stuff that I've always been thinking of when I was young. And so I was curious, and I started coming like every so often, and I would come once a month, and then maybe 2 weeks a month, 2 days a month, and then all days or all Sundays a month, and then Saturdays and Fridays, and I would add it in, right? And I remember when they prayed in tongue the first time, it was like a little off-putting for me because I didn't understand, but like you couldn't deny there was something there, and I was like, what is this? Is this the answer to what I've been thinking about my whole life? And so like I knew that God was there. And I had never felt or experienced that level of like anointing or presence. And I didn't even know what that was at the time, but I just knew like it was just a warm, fuzzy place. It was nice. It was a good place, and I felt like I belonged there for some reason. Nobody was telling me. I just kind of naturally got pulled in by God. And over time, I became very passionate and committed. And I read the fire books, and I understood, like, this is where I'm supposed to be. This is my purpose in life. And I felt that fulfillment that I had always been lacking. And then I knew, like, this is where I'm supposed to be. So, fast forward through all the years, I ended up leaving that job, and God got me a job at Zoom, like December of 2015. And at that point, it was kind of just like, well, I got to do what I got to do, if I got to work corporate. And I never thought I would be there for, 4.5 years. But I was, And through that time, I became deacon, and, I listened to the deacons at the time, which was like Deacon Joseph, Deacon Sarah, Deacon Jeremiah, and Deacon Lance, I think. Yeah. So I kind of got built up through there, and Pastor Steve, was always leading my way. And, I worked hard. When I see H. Debo, head Deacon Arshanti, he reminds me a lot of myself because he just has that fire and that passion that, like, you set your sight on something, like Pastor Steve says, like a bulldog, and you don't let go. And it was like, that's how, I remember when I first came, it was just like, when I had no other commitments or responsibilities, it was just like all in, and I would just like devour the projects and all that stuff. And it just makes me happy to see other people with that level of passion. It's awesome, And over time, we started, Pastor Eugen gave us a word to say that we should start rapping, because I really like music. I like rap a lot, clearly, right? And so that kind of started up, and that was after I had gave away all my worldly music. I had a big, huge book of CDs that I collected over the years, and I sold it, and then God gave it back to me, but in a way that had fulfillment this time. So that even really sparked even more passion and commitment, because I'm like, this is where I'm supposed to be, and now God wants me to make music. It was just awesome. And then a lot of stuff has happened over the years. And to summarize, God gave me a word back then that my wife would walk through the door. And you guys see my wife now. I didn't go out and pursue. God brought her to me. And now I have a beautiful daughter. And our church has grown. And it's just amazing to see. And God also greatly financially blessed me through Zoom. They went public, so I don't want to go into too much detail, but you could imagine that there was a huge financial blessing that really God changed my life through that. It was over $1 million, and it's not to boast of myself. It's to show you guys, when you truly commit yourself to God, this is what we hear about in the Bible: God blessing people tremendously. Oh, the God of old. No, it's the God of now. It's the God of now. This is the God that if you commit your life to, he will bring you fulfillment within and abundantly bless you outside. But people don't know that because they don't know God's ways. And that's why Pastor Steve got that calling from the Lord, is teach my people my commandments, right? And so God financially blessed me there. I was able to stop working, and I ended up, I became assistant pastor, and I started preaching, and I started to carry other responsibilities with music. I led the rap team, and we're making music and getting better, and because of all the money, with that comes problems if you're not careful, Like Diddy says, more money, more problems. It's true. It's very true. Especially here, the enemy's going to come to attack. So I got short-sighted, and I started shifting my focus to other material things that are in and of itself not bad, but if it puts it over God and your fulfillment now becomes in those things, then it just defeats of why you came here in the first place. And now God is your second instead of your first. So after so long of that, God intervened, and I got corrected and disciplined on it. And this is what the sermon is going to be about. It's about, it's not so much about shifting your focus, because that's very obvious. We have to keep on track. But it's really about, as you grow, as I've grown all through all these years, God has built up my stature in him through the pastors. But as a parent, or as when you live with your parents, once you move out, it's time to grow up, and you might be a little shaky and scared, but you've learned a lot, and you know enough to carry on with life. And same thing spiritually. I knew all this that I've been taught over the years And now I was ready to stand, but I wasn't willing to because I was scared. And God created a situation where that spiritual father relationship was severed so that I can turn to God truly and trust in God with my own walk. Because like Pastor said last night, you can't make it to heaven through your pastor. Your relationship with God is one-on-one. That's it. They're there to help, but in order to make it to heaven and have a relationship with God, it's just you and him. That's it. And so that's what I talk about in this sermon. And now I went to school recently for music because my degree at Sac State was economics, funny enough. And I had always said I wanted to go to school for music. And so I got a word, and God's like, go to school for music. So I finished like last week. And so now I'm applying everything I've learned from audio engineering to our rap songs in the rap group, the skits. I help with the recording. I help even with some of the arranging of the songs, the mixing of it, the mastering of it, how it sounds, how you hear stuff on the radio. I take care of all that. For the Holy Dance teams, the skits, the dance songs, the rap songs, even worship. And it's been great. It's been awesome. And you know, with every responsibility comes struggles, but God has given me the strength to overcome. And yeah, that's pretty much it. It's just a quick 15, 20 minutes to kind of give you guys a background for those of you who don't know me and for those of you who thought you know me and didn't. And yeah, let's watch the video.